using code first approach with some link queries. So already we have seen the introduction of code first approach in the last lecture. The meaning of code first approach is that we start our project by writing various domain classes, and we also define context class. After that, we write the code to insert the data into the database. And then when we run the code, the database is automatically created. Tables are automatically created. And then we can uh, use those tables to do the further task of our project. So let me go step by step. At the end of this lecture, I will give you this entire uh, application. So you can also run in your machine and do some extension, which I will suggest in the end. So you can see in the solution explorer, I have various web pages, and I also have some CS files. Okay. Basically, what is this project? This project is a simple application where you have three entities: customer entity, product entity, and order entity. So what is the typical scenario? You have some customers, you have some list of products, and then you have some orders. A customer can place an order, and inside an order you can add products. That is a very simple scenario. So let's start by defining domain classes. Okay, so what will be our first step? Our first step will be to define a file customer.cs. First step will be to define the file customer.cs. So I have opened this file customer.cs. Now see this customer.cs file, a very simple class with three attributes defined, that is ID, customer name, and customer email. Okay, you can see some code before the ID and before the name attribute. These statements are called data annotations. These statements are called data annotations, and they are used to configure your data in a certain way. So if you write key annotation, it means that a particular column in your database will become a key. Okay, and the meaning of second statement is it will become identity, and every time when you insert a record, it will be incremented by one automatically. So when you do CRUD operation in your application, you are not supposed to write this ID. You are not supposed to uh, insert ID yourself. It will be automatically added. Similarly, required means that it is a required field. Okay, so it is a database level validation. Okay, so even if you don't have any client side or server side validation, still if you don't enter customer name, it will not accept. Okay, so it is a final step of validation. And then we have email. Okay, so more about data annotation you can learn. There are various types of annotations that are useful for doing certain type of validation and other tasks, but I have just given you brief idea of what is data annotation and how to use it. Okay, so this customer class is defined, right? Now step number 2 is to define product class. To define product class, so I'm opening product.cs. Okay, so this is my product.cs file. You can see that it also looks very similar to customer.cs, but it has product name and product price, right? The third step is to define order.cs. The third step is to define order.cs. So this is order.cs. So carefully see the code for order.cs. So order is a kind of relational table. It is a relation table because order will be placed by a customer, and in order you can add product, right? So while creating order class, you are giving reference to customer and you are also giving reference to product. Okay, so now you have to think and decide that which kind of relationship I have defined: one to one, one to many, many to many, right? So I have already given you one URL where you have all the relationships configured with examples. So I have taken this from that particular uh, web page. So what will happen when the database is created? Ideally, what you want in RDBMS, your order table should have two foreign keys, right? It should have two foreign keys. One is product ID and another is customer ID. So that will happen if you write this code. Okay, it will happen if you write this code internally, and we'll see that practically also. So that's your definition, right? That's your schema defined. Okay. Now what is next step? To define a context class. To define a context class, because ultimately you want to connect to the database. So this is context class. Okay, so I am naming my context class as shopping context, and I am also passing the connection string, shopping DB connection string. Where I have defined this shopping DB connection string, I have defined it in web.config file. See this connection string I have already defined. Okay, so you can see that the name of the database is my shopping. Okay, name of the database is my shopping. But see, this code I created on my machine. So right now on this machine, this database is not existing. So what we will do first, we'll create this database, only database, and then run the code. So the tables which we created, the classes which we created, database would be tables would be created in that way. Okay. So we'll do that later on. But let's again visit the context class, and very simple, for each entities we have defined db set properties. We have defined db set properties so that we can connect to that particular table when we want to do CRUD operation. Okay. Now let's finish the database part. So as we know from our web.config file, we want to create database on this local DB server, and the name of the database must be my shopping. So let's go to server explorer. Okay, server explorer. Now I click create a new SQL server database. The name of the database is shopping DB. Press OK. Okay. So the shopping DB is created now. The shopping DB database is now created. That's it. We don't need to add any tables to it. We don't need to do any tables to it. What we will do now, what is this? We'll just remove it. Okay, so we have only one shopping DB now. Can you see the screen? It has freezed. It has stopped. Please. Oh, just wait. So in my machine, the network connection is lost. So my audio is on, but Okay, so yeah, so we are back, and you can see that now I created the database, and now what we'll do, I'll show you home page. I'll show you the home page. So remember, if you run your project, then database will not be created. You need to run a specific page which actually contains the code to do some data manipulation task like CRUD operation, right? So if I run this page like this, nothing will happen, right? So there is one page, add new customer, right? There is one page, add new customer. So let me click that. So I have to add new customer. Okay. So let me add a new customer. Let's say the name of the customer is John, and this is the email ID of the customer. Now I press add. Okay. So you can see that the customer is added. All right. Customer is added. And if you see here, if you expand this and refresh, then customer is added in the table. We are not going there because obviously it is there in the database, then and then it will come over here. Okay. Now let us see the code for this first so that you are not confused. So this home page is just redirecting. So the first link is add customer. The name of the page is add customer.aspx. The name of the page is add customer.aspx. So this is the design of add customer.aspx. Okay. So I have two text boxes, one button and a grid view. So what will be the code when I click add? So when I click add, this is the code. See, the first task is to create an object of context class. Then I am creating the object of customer class, right? Because I want to add a new customer. So see how I am creating this object. Customer is equal to new of customer, and then I am giving the values. So whichever values I write in text box 1 and text box 2, those will be assigned to customer name and email respectively. Okay. And then I write db.customers.add. So one customer object is added to the database. And then db.save changes. So it will push the changes to the database. Now next what I want to do, whatever customers are already there in the table, I want to list them in the grid view. Okay. So for that I have written link query. So remember that everything in this project is done using link. Okay. I'm not using any SQL. So see how I am getting the list of customers. From C in db.customers, select C. So it will get the entire result. And that result I am binding to grid view. That result I am binding to grid view. So that is the code for the first page. So whatever I write using, whatever I write in the username, customer name and email, that will be added to the database, and whatever records are there in the customer table, it will be reflected in the grid view. Okay. So let's add one more customer. Say new customer. Okay. So second customer is added. So likewise, you can add customers, right? Again, go to home page. So this is my home page again. Now next task is to add products, right? Add products. So let me go to add products page. So I have product name and product price. Okay. Let me add first product. So what will be the product? let us say a Bluetooth speaker, price is 2000, press add, okay. And we add one more item, let's say pen drive, 128 GB, 1000 rupees, okay. And one more item, let's say a smartphone, which is of 10,000 rupees, okay. So these three products are added, right? Now I go to home page. So these two tasks are done. Of course, to add the products, the same code is used, only the name of the table is changed. But still, if you want to have a look at it, see the code for adding a product. So this is the code for adding a new product. Right? Very simple, similar to the customer addition. Okay. Now comes the next part is to create order. Okay, to create the order. So see the UI of the create order page. Okay. So this is the page. So you can see that it asks me for customer name and product name, but you can't put text boxes over here because I may not be aware about the customer names or their exact spelling, or I should also not populate IDs over here. I should populate the names and also the product names. Okay, so these are the names of the customer. See, these are the names of the customer, and these are the names of the product. Okay, these are the names of the product. Now what I have to do, I have to select customer name from here. I have to select the product name and press submit. So that order will be created. Okay, so let's say okay, I am not showing it over here due to some issues. Anyways, we have created one order. Let's see the code first. So yeah, order.cs, yeah, create order.aspx. Okay, so this is my design. This is my design. So I have two drop down lists. I have two drop down lists. So what should be your first task? Your first task is to, when the page loads, you have to fetch the list of users and list of products into this drop down list. And where you should do this task? No, not SQL data source. I mean, you can do it, but I'm telling about at which place you have to write this code. Yes, in page load, right? In page load we have to write. So let's go to page load. So now I am in page load. Of course, you can also do it with normal SQL or normal SQL data source and then bind it. But this is just because I wanted to focus on fundamentals of link as well. That is why I have used link everywhere. Even though you may feel that at some places it is just not, it doesn't make any sense to use link, but still I have used it. So see how I am fetching the customer names and product names. From X in db.customers, select x.customer name. So this will give me the list of customer names. This will give me the list of customer names. And see this very important. When you bind this to grid view, you have to use not to list method, because names is a generic type. It is a type of var variable. So it doesn't have any type associated with it. If you don't want to do it, then another way is to use toList over here only. Okay. So you can use toList over here and then remove this. This is also perfectly fine, right? So there are different options. in link query, you can have different options to list, to single or default, first or default, first. See all those options yourself. But what is the purpose of all these options? Is to cast your query into proper type, whether it is a single result, whether it is a collection, whether it is a an integer type. All these casting you can do. So this is the code to get the customer name and product name into the drop down list. And now the main task is when the order is placed, what should be done. Before that, let me show you the schema of the database. So the schema of the database, uh, okay. So I think I okay. This connection is not visible over here. This is actually my shopping DB. Let me add the connection. My shopping DB. Okay, my shopping DB is now here. Okay, you can see these tables now. So this is a customer table, orders table, and products table. So you can see the orders table. In the orders table, it has created two foreign keys itself, right? So this is also one of the advantages of using entity framework, that you are free from writing all your queries to create foreign keys and primary keys. It will understand automatically that what you want and define the relationships accordingly. Okay. So with each order object, you have a mapping of product and customers. For each object of order, you have a mapping, corresponding mapping of orders and customers. So now let's create an order. Very simple. Order O is equal to new of order. And now I have to get the customer ID. Okay. I have to get the customer object. Which customer object? Whichever customer I have selected, right? So this is a query to get the customer object, which is selected from the drop down list from customer in db.customers, where customer.customer name equal to drop down list dot selected item dot text select customer. Okay, and then I am writing single or default to indicate that it is a single record, it is a single row. Okay, so if you write this, then this will be automatically casted to the customer type. It will be automatically casted to the customer type. And then what I am writing, O dot customer ID, O dot customer equal to selected customer. So what this will do internally? Internally, what this will do, get the customer ID of the selected uh, customer and place it in the orders table. Okay. So you can see that your work is very much reduced. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to think from the perspective of database. You have to think only from the perspective of programming. And that is why I encourage that code first should be used in your projects also, right? One thing is it will make your, it will enhance your coding skills. And second thing is there are less chances of doing any mistakes, because in the database first, you design the database first. That will be database related issues. But in code first, you can understand everything very clearly. Similarly, the product is selected. So from products in db.products, where product.product name is equal to drop down list 2 dot selected items, select product, and then I got the product. Okay. So when I create the instance of order, I am giving the reference of customer and I am giving reference of product. That's it. Now I'm saving the orders. And firing db.save changes. Okay. So how this table will look? Let's add one grid view. To actually see the table. So after save changes, or let me show you data over here. Doesn't make any sense to print only IDs. Okay. So this is the order, see, which I have created. First is the order ID, then second is the customer ID, because customer number 2 placed it, and third is the product ID, because it placed for product 1, right? Now what thing is not included here, which should have been there, is here I can only add one item to one order. Okay. One customer can add only one item to the given order, because if you place next order, then order ID will be different. So if I want to purchase 5 items, do I need to place 5 orders? In this case, it is there, but it should not be there. So that is one task which I am asking you to complete. So I will share this code, everything. Then you need to modify in such a way that, so what you should do here, instead of this drop down list, there should be check boxes. Okay, so pen drive, Bluetooth speaker, and laptop, all the products should be visible, and I have to just check. And whatever items I check, all those items should be added into single product, a single order. So here one of you is suggesting that we also missed quantity part. So you can also add that. But for that you have to learn two things. So if you want to change the schema, then you have to add new corresponding fields in the code and then again create the database, or you have to do the migration. Okay. So I'm not sure whether you have learned migration or not. You will definitely learn it when you learn MVC. But what you can do right now is think about all changes, modify the class files, and then create the database. So your database will be consistent with your design. Because anyways, I'm not going to give you database because it will not come in the folder. You have to create it yourself. So that should be done. Okay. Now what else I have? I have one more page, that is link join.aspx. What is the purpose of that page? The purpose of that page is to demonstrate the use of join queries. So first join is join two tables, order and product. Okay, join two tables, order and product. Do they have any common key? Yes. Which key? Order and product ID, right? Each order contains the reference of product. So can I use join? Yes. How I am doing it? So this is just a typical inner join. Okay, this is a typical inner join in link. So query looks complex from first sight, but it is very simple. See, from OD in db.orders, from PD of join PD in db.products. on. On means the common key on which you want to join. On od.id equals pd.id. Okay. I also made one mistake that I have used only IDs in everywhere. I should have used order ID, product ID, and customer ID. So you can do it if you want. But this is the join query. Now, when you join, there will be all columns from that join part. You want to select what? So you write select new order ID is equal to od.id, product name is equal to pd.product name, and price is equal to pd.product price. So it will get order ID from the orders table, corresponding product name from the product table, and corresponding product price from the product table, and to list, and then binding it to the grid view. Okay, binding it to the grid view. That is first query. What is next query? This is nothing but join of three tables. Okay, join of three tables. Which three tables? All three tables: order, product, and customer. Order, product, and customer. So what is this join query? See yourself and try to understand. Okay. The first part is same, joining of order and products, and whatever is result, I again apply join. So join city in db dot customers on od dot customers id equals to city dot id. You have to write only one. No, you have to write this whole query. No, if you want to do only join of two tables, then you use this query. But if you want also customer details, see, I think you are asking that in which, when to use which type of join. So my answer is, if you want order and product details, then use join of two tables. But if you also want customer details, then use join of three. If you want only order and customer details, then use only two tables, order and customer. Yes. See, because yeah. No. If you use this, then upper query doesn't make any sense because it's subset of this. So here I want three details: order details from order table, product details from product table, and customer details from customer table. So I have used join of three. And then you can see that I am populating. Okay, there is one query. Sir, there should be od.product.id equal to pd.id. Oh, yes, right. Okay. So here I am comparing only order ID and product ID. So they can not be same. Right. So you are asking at this place, right? Yes. Okay. His suggestion is right because order doesn't contain directly product ID. Order dot product dot ID. Okay. So that's right. So order dot product dot ID. Okay. In upper table also. Oh, right. Okay. Why it will work in other case also, because order ID and product IDs are same 1 2 3 1 2 3, but it's not logical. This is correct. So right, it is correct. Then from order table I am selecting order, from product table I am selecting product, and from customer table I am selecting customer name and email ID. Okay, so let's run this now. We have already only created one order as of now. Okay, so you can see that it is getting product details in first case, and it is getting customer details as well in the second case. Okay. Okay, so I hope it is clear, and it added some more insights into the link and code first approach. So what I will suggest is I will put this project in the classroom. So extract it, open it in your Visual Studio. First step, create the database, give the name as my shopping, and then run the code. First run the create customer page. So your database will be created, and then you can do various experiments like try to add one to many relationship and explore other details like you said quantity, or you may also add login functionality. So there are different extensions are possible. We have not done anything here. So you can do it, and if you have any doubts you can ask me. So I will stop here, and don't leave, because I will now call Ashish sir. So he wants to conduct a lecture for 15 minutes. So I will stop here and call the Ashish sir.
Yes. Am I audible? Yes. Good afternoon. Yes. Okay. Fine. So here I'm just going to give you one example. Okay. That we have right now, or up to now, we have seen uh, two variables and two constraints, right? So I just want to tell you that this can be complicated too. For example, if I have a problem like maximize 6x1 plus 8x2, okay, subject to there are three constraints. You see, although the problem is very simple, okay, uh, it's a maximization type of problem, okay, and all the constraints are less than or equal to 10. Okay, the topic of duality which is left, that we will see afterwards. Okay, uh, but right now I am here going to tell you about this example. Okay, so you see there are three constraints are there. So if you remove this less than equal to sign, okay, there will be three slack variables are there. So you will add x3 over here, okay, uh, x3 over here, then x4 for the second, and for x5 for the third. So you see there are three constraints. There are three constraints. There are five variables x1, x2, x3, x4, x5. Okay, x3, x4, and x5 are the three stacks corresponding to three constraints. Okay, and now you see, if you see, I have to start the table. So what I will do is I will make x1, x2 to non-basic. So once I make x1, x2 to non-basic, they set to 0, and which means that x3 is 10, x4 is 25, and x5 is 35. Okay, so I can do this right easily. But what will be the changes? Earlier you have the simple table with two rows in one table. Okay, now you have three rows because there are three basic variables. Okay, three basic variables corresponding to each constraint. Okay, each constraint's slack. Okay, so each constraint has a slack, and you have a basic variable corresponding to that. What I wanted to show is initially this three will enter. So you see the table is similar, but this is now new for you in just I mean size. You see x3, x4, and x5 are the basic variables. So similarly, if you have five constraints, you can have five basic variables. Okay, so this is xb. All coefficients are 0, because in objective function they are 0. Okay, and you want to maximize 6x1 plus 8x2, so 6, 8, 0, 0 here. The constraint would look like 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 10. So it would be 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 10. Second one would be same 2, 3, 1, sorry, 2, 3, 0, 1, 0, 25. 2301025, and the third one would be 15000135. Okay, that way. So now you have to do the same process, but same process we have to do. Okay, but we have to do it for multiple rows, right? Earlier one was the key row and other was the another row. So less entries you need to compute. So if you see that as the number of constraints increase, the size of the table also increase, and it becomes a tedious to evaluate many things, right? So but here, so first you find zj and then cj minus zj. So you enter this x2 into solution. So this will be the key column, and you, this is RHS, so 10, 25 by 3 and 35 by 5, 7. So the minimum ratio occurs at this place. So this will be the key row, this will be the key column, and the process is same. So I'm not repeating that. Okay, so x2 enters, and x5 leaves. Please see this. X2 enters the solution, x5 leaves the solution, and as usual, you divide this by pivot, which is 5. So 1 by 5, 1, 0, 0, 1 by 5, 7. Okay, which is this. Okay, and you modify other entries like key row, old value minus key row into corresponding element in the key row multiplied by corresponding element in the key column, divide by pivot. Pivot is 5 right now. And then you evaluate all the elements. For example, this 25 turned to 4. How? So it is 25 is old value minus 35 into 3. 35 is corresponding element in the row into 3. 25 minus 35 into 3 by 5. Okay, so this I'm just showing this divided by 5. So 5 sevens are I mean this, so 25 minus 21, it is 4. So likewise this is same. So then what is the purpose of doing showing this example? There are two purposes. One was to just introduce how you can work with the increasing size. Although it becomes more and more difficult, still it is possible. And then you can go like this. Okay, I have shown the calculations. You can read it afterwards. Okay, then in the second time, x1 enters. Okay, because it is highest value. And what leaves is 20 by 7 is this. Have you noticed something? I am not converting 20 by 7 to 2 point something, right? 2 point something. Why? 2 point something. I'm not converting to like that. Why? Because if you do this fraction, the computer has its own way to round off and everything, and so there will be error, and that yes, loss of precision. So error will be propagated in many iterations. So as far as possible, don't try to get 3.14 or pointing things. Like you can try with this, the fractional p by q manner. Okay, loss of precision, very correct. Okay, so that x1 entered. Okay, so x1 entered and x4 left. So it will be x3, x1, x2. Again, you do the same. And now you see again there is a third iteration. Okay, where this x5 enters and negative is not possible, but this x3 leaves. Have you noticed something? Have you noticed something? x5 entered, x5 enters and x3 leaves. Okay. Yes, Keval, others, have you noticed anything? x5 again, and yes, very correct. So x5 entered again. You see earlier x5 left in the first iteration, there was an x5, it left and x2 entered. Okay. And eventually after 2 iterations, in the third iterations, okay, x5 will enter and x3 will leave. That is what it happens. Okay, and now eventually all become negative and algorithm terminates with the value. You see x5 is 5, x1 is 5, x2 is 5. So and the value is 70. Okay, 0 into 5 plus 6 into 5 plus 8 into 5. 6 into 5 is 30 plus 40, 70 is the answer. And how to read this? x1 equal to 5, x2 equal to 5, x5 is equal to 5. But x5 doesn't make any sense in an objective function. So the value is, optimal value is 70. I wanted to tell you there are 3 things to learn in this example. One is variable that left already can come again, but the combinations are different. You see, variable that left that can come again, but the combinations are different. See, here the combination is x5, x1, x2. Earlier, the combinations were x3, x4, x5, right? So the combinations are there. The same combinations will not come again. Okay. Second, you know this, we don't compute ratio when theta is 0 or negative, because theta is the limiting value, which we already discussed yesterday. And the third thing, to avoid loss of precision and to avoid round of errors from coming again. So because if many iterations are passed, then round of errors can propagate. Okay. So rather than using floating point data, you can use the fractional data like P by Q. These three things you can understand. Yes, Keval and others. Others you are getting or not? Chandresh, Yash, Abhi, Preet. Uh, yes. Okay. Fine. So remember what I am saying is there could be many iterations. Here we are taking the example such that this gives you an answer in 2-3 iteration, 3 or 4 iterations, right? So always it is not the case. So rounding off is also an issue, and so that you have to keep fractions. And now I also think that you understood how to work with the 3-row table, the table having 3 rows. Yes or no? Abhi, Chandresh, Kushal, Janil. Yes. Okay, fine. So we'll meet in the lab. Thank you so much. With this, I end. Yes, Keval. I have already uploaded everything in the chat. You can just see that. Okay, I've uploaded. Fine. Thank you so much.